Hey all, this is Nick at OpenSpace, the new hackerspace in Milano, Italia. Tonight I want to show you one of our latest projects. It's called EasyEngine-Backup-Restore. Basically what it does is automate and completely manage the backups for any EasyEngine installation. If you've run EasyEngine in the past, you know how easy it is to manage all your sites. In this takes care of creating a perfectly complete archive of all your sites, whether they're WordPress sites, normal sites, PHP enabled or not, and it also backs up to S3, to any S3 storage server you might have, so you can also restore from there. And all you need really is to have your S3 credentials in that case, and a passphrase that you keep saved in a safe location off of the server. And if you ever need to restore from S3, it's just a few clicks away, and it's really easy to do. The code is all bunched up in functions, so the backup and restore script work in similar ways. You can inspect it and tell me what you think. In any event, I'll show you the function very quickly. It's very easy to install. You can install it on a already existing EasyEngine install. It won't require any change at all on how you work or anything on your sites. Your sites won't even know they're being backed up. It's done at a file system level. It doesn't even depend on EasyEngine itself. The script actually scans the /var/www directory and automatically detects whether it's a WordPress site or not, and does a MySQL dump and syncs the directories all by itself without relying on EasyEngine's database. So even if EasyEngine's database was out of sync or there was any configuration error, you can rest assured that your websites are being backed up. You can really set it and forget about it. You can let it run automatically. It'll run nightly every day, and it'll alert you via email if something goes wrong. Of course, always remember to test your backups frequently. Always have a spare machine where to restore them every few months, just to make sure everything works, that you have your passphrase handy and safe, and stuff like that. Also remember, this is alpha software, so there's an inherent risk in complete trusting this solution because it's hasn't been tested by almost anybody at this level, but hopefully with your feedback it'll grow to be better. It works with all EasyEngine site types, so you don't have to worry whether it's a WordPress site or not. It'll figure it out on its own. It backs up absolutely everything from your WP config in case of WordPress sites to htdocs directory, even directories outside of htdocs, with the exception, of course, of backups that EasyEngine does, and caches and stuff like that. You can store them locally or on S3, of course encrypted. You can really restore them with one single command. You don't have to go through any complicated process. And if you have a lot of websites to restore, there's some runtime arguments you can pass to the restore script, and it'll absolutely automate every step of it. So you don't have to press enter several times at every website. You'll just tell what to do for all sites, and it'll apply that setting to all sites should there be a choice to be made. It actually can be run, the restore script, on a perfectly blank machine. I'll show you that to you in a few minutes. You don't even have to install EasyEngine in the first place or remember to do some special operation. You can just run the restore script, clone the directory of EasyEngine-Backup-Restore, run the restore script, and it'll install EasyEngine for you. And if you're on Ubuntu, it'll even install some additional things like phpMyAdmin and other stacks that are part of EasyEngine. It automatically installs Let's Encrypt. It activates Let's Encrypt for all the newly created websites when you restore them, if the DNS checks are correct, of course. Otherwise, it'll prompt you to correct the DNS settings, and if you want to skip, you can do that. Or you can disable Let's Encrypt entirely on newly restored website. So that's just a nifty little thing to have when you have a lot of websites to restore and you want them to have Let's Encrypt set up automatically. And as I said, it doesn't rely on EasyEngine, so you can rest assured that all your website's directory is being backed up. It actually performs a test restore when you back up. So it sounds counterintuitive, but if you, for instance, change your backups passphrase by mistake, duplicity will not alert you, and you'll have backups stored on S3 with two different encryption keys, and that'll be a pain to decrypt in the future. So every time you back up to S3, it actually tries a restore from S3 with the very same key it's using to successfully then back up to S3. So you can make sure that everything you're backing up is actually restorable with that very same key every single time. It really tries to give you detailed errors in case of whatever kind of failure you have, and it accounts for any possible error, like deleting your config file or change your, as I just said, backups encryption key for S3. So it really tries to cover all scenarios and not leave you in the dark with some remote and abstract error message. As you can see, it's really easy to install. You just clone the directory and run the config. I'll show that to you right away. Okay, so here we have on the left our existing WordPress server with EasyEngine running, and on the right we have a complete blank new Debian machine, just to show you how easy it is to do on a completely fresh machine. This is just an extreme scenario test. I absolutely do not recommend you ever use a machine without doing some hardening before that. For your information, we have a script that does just that. It's called Debian First Boot Setup, and I'll leave the link in the description. But for now, I'll just leave it blank just to show you that there was absolutely no prior setting up that was done on this machine. It's just been booted. It's a fresh VPS. So as you can see, we just install the script. It's actually already installed on this WordPress server of ours, but I'll just reinstall it. The installer is completely idempotent, so you can run it as many times as you want. It won't do any harm, and it will actually keep your existing config file if you already have installed the script in the past. So we'll just do this. We'll clone the directory. Make sure you write it in with the caps because it's case sensitive. Otherwise, the installer will fail for now. We'll fix that in the future. So you just run the installer. Let's just install some dependencies here. And if you're on Ubuntu, as I said, it'll also install the full stack. It'll prompt you to do that. We'll just skip it for now because it'll take a little longer, but you just say yes and it does everything automatically. It also installs send-only mail server, so it can send you email notifications for anything you need. Now I'm going to show you the config file with some test files I have here. And as you can see, it's really simple. You just you basically just decide your email address for notifications. If it's the first time you run the script, just run pwgen421. It's a command that'll just spit out a 42 character passphrase. If you're wondering what pwgen is, it's a program that, by the way, was installed as a dependency from the installer, so you already have it on your system. Here you can define how many backups you want to keep on your system. So I have set 1 here, but you can set as many as you want. Of course, you need to have storage space, otherwise the script will stop. Maximum number of backups to keep locally, it's very self-explanatory. Max local storage that the backups should occupy, and here you should define if you just want local backups or if you want S3 backups. If you do have S3 backups, just indicate what's the minimum history you want to have for your backups. In this case, Duplicity, which is our S3 backup engine, will keep 12 months of history, so you can always roll back at least 12 months. This option indicates if you want to have a complete separate way of backing up that is independent from Duplicity once a month. So once a month you will have the script will upload an archive, which is a local backup that is created on your server, just in case something goes wrong with Duplicity for some configuration error over time. And it's just a nice little convenient thing to have as a side thing. It's just a very down-to-earth archive at exactly how it was on the first of each month. Of course, it's encrypted as well with GPG, but with a passphrase, which is the same passphrase as is set above. These are your 3 credentials, so access key ID, secret access key, your S3 endpoint, which is usually s3.amazonoz.com, especially if you're using like the Virginia Amazon S3 server. But of course this can change, and you can also self-host S3 servers, something you should absolutely do. And this is the bucket name. So this is all there is to it. You can close this config. Of course, make sure you back up your passphrase. That's the only thing you have to know, other than your S3 credentials, if you're backing up to S3, of course, in order to restore your entire EasyEngine installation from your backup server. Once your configuration is set, you can run your first backup. So just run bash, the directory, and backup. Oh, sorry. Okay, and as you can see now, it's gonna start backing up our entire installation. It's purging some old backups here because they exceed the available disk space. Now, you might be wondering why it would take so much space to back up. But if it's backing up to S3, it actually needs to copy all the files, and it needs to compress them, and then actually needs to do a test restore from S3 in this case to then back up to S3. So it does occupy a little more space than you would expect, but trust me, it's absolutely worth it, because you know your backup dynamics are absolutely perfect every single time. So now it's extracting all the data from all the various websites you see here. It detects, as you can see, if a website is a WordPress site or not. Once it's done, it'll create a tar.bzip2 archive, and that is a compression technology that is very efficient, but it takes a lot of time. So usually compresses down to about 55 or 65% the original size, so it cuts 30% or 35%, even more, off of your backup size, and it takes a while. So let's just let it run. We have a convenient backup indicator of the progress and the time estimation. But again, this is the only time you'll be running the backup manually, so you don't really care. It'll just run automatically every night. And let's just let this run for a little now. Okay, so it's almost done compressing the local backup, and it'll store it in our archive directory together with all the other backups it makes every day. Of course, respecting the minimum and maximum values you've set, and also always keeping an eye on storage space, because it's very important you don't go over on your server. Now the time estimation goes a little over 100%, but it's pretty accurate usually. After it does this, it'll stop if you only have local backups set. Otherwise, if you have S3 backups set, it's going to actually try and restore the last backup, so the previous backup you've made on S3, to the local machine, without then actually restoring it. Of course, just it's going to try to download it using the current S3 passphrase. If it fails, it means that at some point down the line you've probably changed your S3 passphrase in your config file, or the backups got corrupted, or you tested a restore on another machine and then accidentally overwritten the alert that tells you not to back up from that machine to the same destination if it's just a test, and mess something up with the passphrase or something. It's absolutely extremely hard to do it intentionally, unintentionally, sorry, because even the script and duplicity itself alerts you when you back up from a different destination, and then of course if you actually successfully restore your S3 instance to the new destination, then use that as your new machine and back up from there, overriding just the first time you back up from the other destination, from the other source, then you can absolutely use that as a perfectly valid backup, and if the time will come, you can absolutely then use that as a restore source for a third machine, and so on. But this is to say, it's just an extra safety we have implemented into the script, so that you're absolutely sure that at all times whatever's on your S3 server can be restored successfully. Of course, this is not enough. This just tests that the data is intact and valid, but it doesn't actually mean you have all your data, because again, this is an alpha software. It could very well have errors that for some reason prevented your site from being backed up for some unknown reason. So always make sure you have a spare machine where you can test and restore every so often, and make sure that all of your websites are actually restored. Even just whenever you add a new website, as a good rule of thumb, just wait a few days and go on your new VPS, just open one up and test the restore and see how it works out. You don't need to change any DNS settings or anything. Just set it and try connecting to their from your workstation to see if the website actually works. And if it doesn't give you any errors, then it means it worked perfectly, as it's always done for us. And if it not, just post back whatever error you've had and let us know. So now the restore was successful, so it actually downloaded all 2 gigabytes worth of data, and all the data was intact and successfully decrypted with our passphrase. So now that that's done, this test data, of course, will be deleted at the end of this process, at the backup process. It's actually backing up all the new data to S3. So all the backups, as you probably know, with duplicity are incremental. So it takes absolutely no extra space on the server, however many times you run the backup, because it's not actually backing anything up that is new. As you can see, the new file size here is 2.2 megabytes, which is probably just some content from one of our sites that got changed, or even just caches or something like that. So the backup is complete, and this exact process runs every night. And if there's any errors, it'll send you an email. Keep an eye on your email, of course, to see if there are any errors. We also have a very convenient login functionality, which you can find the logs directory gets created without any intervention required. in your logs directory, you have the EEBR backup folder, and you'll see all your logs, the last 42 logs it'll keep. And just to get the latest one, just run cat or tail, whatever your favorite command is, EBR backup and latest log, and that'll show exactly the entire SD out and SD error, meaning both the normal output and the error output from your runtime into the log. So if you want to get the log for the backup that ran last night as you were sleeping, you can do this and you can check that everything worked out. So now let's go on our new machine and simply show you how easy it is to do. So we'll do the same exact process. We don't even have to install EasyEngine because the restore script will do it automatically. Now this is a Debian machine. It won't install the mail notifications and the full EasyEngine stack, so probably you'll have to manually install php-admin, but it's really simple to do. Just follow the guide you can find online. So we'll install Git. We'll just copy and paste it because it's easier. So of course now I'm going to show you getting the passphrase from the other server directly. Of course, this is just a test. That's absolutely not how it should be done. You should have your passphrase safely in your password manager or on a paper note, in your vault, whatever you want. But of course, make sure you always have your passphrase, because both the duplicity backups and the monthly archive, if you have it enabled, are encrypted like that. Local backups, of course, are not encrypted. So if you have any other external way to copy them somewhere else via SFTP or whatever you want, of course that's totally up to you. There's no encryption going on. Just make sure, however you transfer them outside the server, is a safe and secure way of doing so. So let me just get the passphrase from here. So now we have to install the script here, of course. As you see, it'll say that mail notifications might not work because it's Debian. We love Debian, of course, but we simply haven't had time to also implement the full stack installation for Debian as well. We might do that in future. And it really doesn't affect you basically anyway, except for mail notifications possibly not working for backups. But this is just a test to show you. And again, the software is in active development, so you'll see improvements in the future going on. Let it run, and the only thing then we have to do is specify that we are backing up or restoring. It's the same thing, of course, from S3, and specify our decryption passphrase. Everything else is up to you. We're not going to change any other value right now because we don't need to, but should this become your actual new machine because you're restoring your data, because you've lost the data on your old server or whatever, you don't have access to it anymore, or it was shut down, or the data got corrupted, of course, make sure you go through the other few options you have in the config file and make sure they match what you want. So in this case, let me just configure EasyEngine on the new machine. Basically asks us for an admin email to send us its notifications for WordPress site updates and stuff like that, and our name. Okay, so the installation is complete. Let's just go ahead and modify the config file. So we are going to want to also change the admin email, which is pretty important. And of course, we're going to want to also, specify the S3 connection details. Of course, you don't have to copy these from your old server or of course, keep them safe in any specific location, because you can always generate new keys from your Amazon S3 or IAM panel, which is of course the right way to do so, but I mean, for simplicity purposes, I'm going to just copy them over from here. So there you go. That's all you need, and you can actually run the restore script right now. I'm going to run it without any arguments, just to show you what it asks us for if we don't tell it to do anything, but I'm going to show you the advanced usage in just a few minutes. Okay, so let's run the restore script. It's going to install the dependencies and just reinstall EasyEngine, just to make absolutely sure that all the EasyEngine stack is perfectly up to date and has everything you need. Just open up the advanced restore guide just to give you an idea. Okay, so it's going to ask us where the backup file is located. So if we have, if this machine was already used as an EasyEngine instance, and we just want to roll it back in time, we just want to restore a previous backup that we did on this machine. Of course, this is an empty machine, but imagine we were doing so on this the other server. We just want to roll it back to how it was 3 days ago because we did something stupid. We can absolutely do that. We just select the local stored file, and it'll present us with a list of files. So let me just show that to you. Of course, here, sorry, it doesn't work, but we just do it on the other server, and I'll show you that you can actually roll it back in time. In the meantime, let me just show you the other options on this machine. Okay, I'm going to say that the file is stored elsewhere. So it shouldn't look in its archive on the local machine, but I'm going to tell it, I'm going to actually feed it a backup file or a restore from S3. So just a standalone restore. I'm going to choose 2. So if I had a standalone archive, say I've SFTP'd a local archive from my old server to a backup server, or I downloaded one once, or I had it added to my Nextcloud storage server or whatever else, I can actually feed it the tar.bzip2 file now, or even if I don't have the archive, I can feed it the actual individual folders, the content of the archive. So if for some reason you ever downloaded an uncompressed backup, you can also do that now. But for now, I'm going to choose S3, and it's going to actually restore it from S3, doing the same thing it did before, just this time it's not tested string for real. In this case, let me just show you in the meantime on the old server how easy it is to roll back in time from a previous backup. So I'm going to just say locally, and it'll show us the dates that are available for the backups. I'm going to just press continue, select one of the backups, and it's going to actually restore that. So I'm just going to press exit now because I don't want to roll it back. Okay, so every time you restore, it first backs up whatever you have on that current machine. So let's say you're rolling the machine back in time, but then actually realize that during that time you actually had made some changes, or you had made some changes in the last few hours that you actually needed to keep, or someone else working on another site did those, and you actually just rolled it back in time, just to be sure, even though probably it actually certainly took a backup a few hours before because it takes it every night. It just makes a last backup of that moment in time before it actually restores whatever you have, so you never lose anything. And actually even moves your archive directory to an old named one, just so you're sure. And if this is a new machine, of course, it'll just do a blank backup. So as you see, it finished restoring from our S3, it downloaded everything. It made a blank backup here because you see 10 kilobytes. Now it's starting to evaluate all the sites. So for instance, this site is a non-WordPress site. So it just created it from scratch and asked me if I want to activate PHP. In this case, not for this website, so I just say no. Do I want to activate Let's Encrypt? No. And it'll just go on like that. Now it's working on this website, and it's a WordPress site. So it's gonna create it. It creates all WordPress sites as WPFC sites. So with Nginx fast CGI cache, which is absolutely the best kind of cache you can have on WordPress sites. It speeds up traffic a lot, and it can host a lot of concurrent visitors. So here, the first time it installs a WordPress site, it actually takes a little time. We'll just let it run. And in the meantime, I'll start showing you some advanced restore arguments. So for instance, you can skip the EasyEngine install. So if this is you've already installed EasyEngine, or a previous restore failed for whatever reason, you just want to rerun it and skip the EasyEngine installation, even though it takes about 25 seconds, you can just skip it. You can skip the local backup if you have nothing to lose on this machine, or for some reason you have some corrupt websites and the backup is failing because the MySQL dump is failing. Just skip the backup, and you're ready to lose whatever you have on this machine before you actually restore your old previously working installation. If this is not the first restore you're doing, or if you're rolling back in time, of course the site you're going to restore is already existing, so it will delete the backup. Delete the site and then actually restore that site. Watch out when using delete existing together with skip backup, because it'll actually delete a website that has not backed up in advance. Enable PHP automates the prompt of whether to activate PHP on previously on sites to be restored that are not WordPress sites. And activate Let's Encrypt will actually automatically try to enable or skip enabling Let's Encrypt on newly restored sites. I'll show you that in a second because it's a bit more advanced and nuanced. So in this case, it just restored this website, WordPress website, correctly. Of course, don't mind these credentials that it says, because it'll also have restored the users table together with every other table of the database from your old site. So your old credentials will absolutely be valid and all your users will be kept. It's absolutely the same. The only thing it's modifying in the wp-config file is the new newly created EasyEngine site WordPress database name, password, and user. But that's all is changing. Even if you've made some custom configurations in your wp-config file, they will be kept because it's restoring the actual wp-config file, just substituting the individual 3 variables for the database connections. So in this case, we're going to skip the Let's Encrypt activation, and it's going to go on like that. As you notice that every time it asks us if we want to activate Let's Encrypt, that oftentimes is not, unfortunately, something people do, even though it should be absolutely enabled on every single website on the planet. But you might not want to be prompted to activate it every single time, so you can just say activate Let's Encrypt no, and it will skip asking you this. or you can say yes, and it will actually prompt you. It will actually try and enable it on every website without asking you. So it's going to skip this prompt and just going to go ahead to perform the DNS checks. And opportunistic will automatically run the DNS checks, and if they check out, if they succeed, it will automatically enable Let's Encrypt. But if they fail, it's just going to skip it. So if the DNS settings are already correct for that site on this new machine, it's going to activate Let's Encrypt on each and every site for which the DNS settings check out. If they fail, it's not going to prompt you, and it's just going to keep going on with the new site. So it's basically a perfectly non-interactive way to run the script. And just to say, you know what, if it works out, great, otherwise skip it and I'll figure it out later. So on this website, it's asking me if I want to enable PHP. I do. And I'm not going to activate Let's Encrypt. Of course, Let's Encrypt is active for all these websites on the old server, but since this is just a test, I'm not going to actually switch to using this machine. The old one is perfectly fine. I'm not going to actually change any DNS settings, and therefore any Let's Encrypt certificate provisioning would fail here. I do have one site that is configured to use this server, and I'll show that to you in a minute. Okay, so for this specific site, I've actually changed the DNS settings just a few minutes ago to point to this new machine. Just to show you how easy it is to activate Let's Encrypt for the website, I'm gonna say yes. And right now the DNS settings just checked out, so it's gonna go ahead and actually download Let's Encrypt and activate it for this website automatically. If the settings were not correct, I'll show you that to you in a minute. You have a chance to correct them on your registrar site or DNS server, whatever you have, and actually have it recheck until it's right. Or you can just abort and skip it, or exit the script entirely. As I said, since you might not get it right at the first restore, especially if the first time you're using the script and you want to run the restore again, absolutely no problem. You can run this restore as many times as you want until you get it perfect. As you see, the certificate was just successfully installed, and now it's going to go ahead and evaluate the new sites and go ahead with that. So as you can see, it has correctly restored the site, and we can go ahead and close it. And that's just how easy it is to restore every website you had on your old machine. I'll go ahead and show you a fully non-interactive restore, which is this. So this script is gonna skip the EasyEngine installation just to save those 20 seconds because we've already installed it. Skip backing up the current sites because we don't need them, even though the backup is blank. We'll just save another 20 seconds. Delete any existing sites. Since we've just successfully run a restore, all these websites we're going to restore just to show you how easy it is to run the script again. If you're not convinced by something, you just want to correct something, it's going to delete all the website we're now restoring to then restore them. It's going to automatically enable PHP on all non-WordPress sites. That's usually something that's not destructive in any way, even on static HTML sites. So it doesn't hurt to enable it. And in my experience, and it's going to opportunistically enable Let's Encrypt. So if the DNS settings check out, it's going to enable it. Otherwise, it's just not even going to prompt you. It's just going to go ahead and not do it. Now I'll just show you how the DNS settings work when it is in interactive mode. So without all these extra arguments I just showed you, I'm just going to hit yes, and it's going to say, hey, IPv4 DNS settings don't work out for this site, correct them. And I can check it again, and it's going to be wrong this time as well. I'm just going to skip it. I can also, and then it's going to ask me the www subdomain, because EasyEngine wants this subdomain to check out in the DNS to actually provision a TLS certificate for both the top level domain and the www subdomain. So as you can see here, you can also set a CNAME so that if you ever have to change the top level domain IP address in the future, the www subdomain will automatically follow it in the DNS, and you only have to change one record. If I actually now fixed both of these and then checked it again and have recognized that it worked, then it would go ahead and install the TLS certificate. But now I'm going to say skip, and it's going to say here one or more DNS checks was failed and was skipped, so it's not going to activate Let's Encrypt because it would just fail. And it's going to go ahead and do everything. So I'm just going to copy this command and show you in case you have a bunch of websites, so even tens or hundreds of websites on a single server you want to restore, and have basically a catch-all that works. If you're using the opportunistic Let's Encrypt certificate provisioning, just make sure you've corrected, you've updated all your DNS settings if this is a new machine. Otherwise, the old settings will work perfectly, of course. If you instead want to be guided through setting each and every DNS record, simply leave the activate Let's Encrypt option off, or just say yes, and it'll skip the prompt, but then actually prompt you if one of the DNS settings doesn't check out. So this is the last website it's going to restore with the script. And we're ready to run the fully automated one. Give me just a few seconds here. Okay, so just finished restoring with the restore script. I'm going to just paste in this non-interactive restore and go ahead. So it's going to alert us. It's not going to reinstall EasyEngine. It's going to skip current site's backup, delete any site that already exists, all of them in this case, activate PHP on all websites that are not WordPress, and try provisioning Let's Encrypt as we said before. So we're going to store from elsewhere, that was S3, and from now on it should be all absolutely automatic. Just in this specific case, since we actually just ran a restore, the TLS certificate for that website we did before already exists. So EasyEngine is going to simply ask us if we actually want to provision a new certificate from Let's Encrypt Certification Authority, or if we want to reuse the existing one. But this is just in this test case where we have actually already successfully ran the restore script. If this were a new machine and right at the beginning you had run this command as we're doing now, which is something you can absolutely do. You can just simply install EasyEngine-Backup-Restore, enter your details in the config file, and directly run this command or any other similarly crafted command. You can absolutely do that. Of course, it wouldn't be EasyEngine wouldn't ask you to reuse the previously generated certificate because there would be none. So let's just give it a little time to download from S3, and I'll be right back. Okay, so as you see, it started restoring, and you can see here that it's automatically checking the DNS settings for every site, and it's skipping them for skipping Let's Encrypt certificate provisioning for all of them because none of the DNS settings check out. But of course they would if you had actually corrected the DNS settings for this new machine, or if this was your old machine and you were just rolling back in time. As you can see, it's going to automatically enable PHP on sites that are not WordPress. So you can see right here that it activated PHP on the site. At the beginning, you saw that it skipped the EasyEngine install and the local backup. It's automatically deleting all the current sites to recreate them. And I'll show you in a few minutes that even for that website we had before, it's going to automatically provision the TLS certificate. And again, in our experience, this script is extremely stable. We've never had any issues with it on any website because EasyEngine works in such a clean and tidy way that it's really hard for something to go wrong. But again, this is just the beginning, so always make sure you check your backups. But again, we went from a perfectly clean machine to a perfectly functional, fully installed EasyEngine instance that is exactly like our old one in just a few commands, and which is great. And again, if you were not running it in test mode but in real life, you just correct your DNS settings and run this non-interactive restore command, and within 3 minutes of your work and maybe 7 or 8 minutes, worst case scenario of time, it would have done everything automatically. So now it's going to do the DNS checks, which will work out for the site. Again, this is just because we did it before, otherwise it wouldn't even ask you. We'll just keep it in the existing certificate for now, which is great. Otherwise we could also refresh it. It would absolutely work because the DNS settings are correct. And again, everything works. So there you go. So I hope you like our project and you install it and let us know how it works out for you. We're gonna soon make a release for the first 0.1 release for this, so that we can actually track who's using what version and track issues better. So please let us know if you have any special need, like excluding certain websites from your backup or other things. We do always read your requests, and we get to them as soon as possible. And again, just always back all your sites up, and especially now with this new way of doing so, there's absolutely no excuse not to do so. So have fun using EasyEngine, and let us know what you think about our project. Thank you so much.